Dozen Customs. We're back out here on the Jeep. Yesterday we put the doors on, which was quite the struggle. It was very stressful trying not to chip or scratch any of the primer. I know it's just primer, but you know, every chip and scratch that I put in the primer has to be repaired before it gets painted. And it just, you know, it shows me like how hard it's gonna be to put this thing back together when it's painted. Like, I was trying to be super careful with everything yesterday, and it just, you know, it didn't go my way, and then you start getting frustrated. And this side went together a lot easier than the other side. I realized that, you know, we needed to tap some screws, or the bolt holes, we needed to tap those out. I ended up having to pull the passenger side door off to re-tap all that, and we had a problem with one of the bolts. So this side went together no problem. I don't think we chipped or scratched anything except for where the latch is. And the only reason that got chipped and scratched is, you know, you tighten it up. You try not to tighten it so tight that it's making imprints into the primer. But then when you go to shut the door, because it's not tight enough, it moves. So you have to tighten it. And you know, you tighten it, you shut the door, you realize that the door's not sitting right, so then you have to loosen it up and adjust it again. And once you tighten it down that one time and it makes an imprint in the primer, and then you move it, now you can see that first original imprint. So that's all that we really have to deal with over here, is that most likely will come out when we sand it. But the problem is that we're going to go through that again once it's painted. So I've been thinking about a way that maybe we can mark it so that once it's painted, we can put it back in the same spot. Now, a way that I have done that in the past is you drill 2 small holes through the latch into the truck itself, and then that way you can use that drill bit to find that hole and line those 2 holes back up, and then that way you know it's in the same spot, and then you tighten it up. So that may be something that we're gonna do. I hate to drill holes and stuff like that, but I think that we may have to do it with this one, because there's just, I don't see any way of putting this thing together once it's painted without scratching everything. I told Colleen yesterday that, like, you know, I almost want to like just leave the doors on now. They're set, they're adjusted, everything shuts. Like you can just push on it and the door shuts. I mean, it's shutting beautiful. Like, I almost just want to paint it all together. But I know that there's areas that I'm not going to be able to get to with the paint and the clear. And I don't want that. So we're gonna have to paint it, and we're gonna have to try very hard. Maybe drill those holes, like I said, just alignment holes, so that we can align everything back up. And then hopefully we don't chip or scratch anything putting it back together. And worst case scenario, we just, you know, I told Colleen yesterday we may be respraying some stuff. And just, you know, if I put that in my head now, then I'm not as disappointed later when I do scratch something. You know, we're still gonna try very hard not to scratch anything, but if I go into it already thinking we're gonna end up having to repaint this, it makes it a little easier later. But let's hope, you know, let's hope that we can get this situated to where it goes back together properly, and we don't have any issues. So this should be the final like test fit of everything, and this is the final fitment for body work. Once the body work's done and it's primed, we'll blow everything apart. We'll get everything painted, jammed out wise, and then we'll put it back together, and that's the last time. So we are getting down to that last point. So if you haven't been here before, sorry I just blabbed on for a few minutes about the issues we had yesterday, but it stressed me out real bad. But we're working on a 49 Jeep Willys pickup truck. The bed is already done and ready for paint. There's a couple things I gotta tidy up on the bed, but for the most part, everything's primed, everything's ready to go. So, and currently we are working on the cab. I have the fenders behind me, which are, I'd say they're like 75% done. Insides of everything are primed. The outside itself, what you would see out here, is roughed in. We still gotta go in and finalize it. I want to finalize it once it's on the vehicle. But before we get it on the vehicle, I need to finish up this edge in this corner here where it mounts up. I was hoping to put them on yesterday, and I'm glad that we didn't, because after I calmed down and came back out here and was looking at everything, like, we need to finish this edge before we mount everything up. So, but we're getting close to finishing this thing up. There are tons of videos on this Jeep. It's been a huge job. It's basically been a frame off. I have not literally taken the body off of the frame, but we have had it up on jack stands. We've done all the body mounts. We've painted the frame. Like, it is basically a frame off restoration. It's gotten a new floor put in it. So it's been a huge task. This vehicle was not supposed to be that. It was supposed to just come in for a paint job. And once we started getting into it and we started seeing how bad this was, it had been painted several times. There was a ton of hidden stuff. Once we got into it, it just kind of waterfalled into a complete restoration. So, but we are getting down to the end. We're at the body work on the cab and the front end. And, hoping we're going to be getting this thing painted very soon here. So once we get this all body worked out and primed, this is leaving to go have the drivetrain put back in it, and we're going to get the bed painted. And then once the bed's painted, this will come back with the new drivetrain. We'll put everything together. We'll get the cab all painted, and then it's like reassemble Johnny 5. So we are getting, really close to having this thing finished. So I'm gonna get to work. We got this side to sand up, and we got the other side to sand up. Now the other side, this is hopefully our second and final coat on this side. That side is the first coat. So that side still needs to be sanded down. Then we fill those spots, we put our final coat on, and then that can be sanded down, and then we can put the front end on. Only problem with that is I'm out of filler. It should be here tomorrow. So, all right, get this side finished, hopefully, and that side sanded down, fill the low spots. I have enough for that. And then tomorrow we should be able to sand it down. Hopefully the new stuff will be here, and we'll be able to get that side finished up. Then we can put the front end on. We gotta get the hood fit on. On Jeeps, there's these little side latches that hook up and latch onto the hood, and we need to install those. We need to install those back in their correct spot. All the work that we've done on this vehicle, stuff got moved around, stuff got adjusted. They were no longer in the right spot, so we need to make sure those are in the right spot. And then hopefully, get everything finished, and then everything will come back apart for primer. So, but yeah, let's get to sanding on this. So this is just 80 grit. And once we get this all sanded out in 80 grit, we'll run over it with some 220 by hand, just to knock down that 80 grit scratch. And should be good then. Only thing would be this front edge where this body line. This is what we need to make sure is good for the fenders. That's the only thing I'm thinking is probably gonna need a little bit more work. So. Okay, so I just wanted to show you guys just real quick. So I still got a little bit more sanding to do on this thing, but I can already see that it's going to need more work. If you guys can pick this up in the camera, so you can start to see that there's a dark spot here. You can see that there's a little bit of a dark spot here, and this is not fully sanded yet. So this up here is going to need another coat. And then as well as down here, you can see we're already breaking through the bare metal here, and we're still really low here. So I'm still going to do some more sanding on this, but I can tell already that this is not the final coat. We are going to be putting another coat on this. So unfortunately, I was hoping to just, you know, do it in my 1-2 coat that I normally do. Unfortunately, sometimes it just don't work out that way. So I've complained in other videos about this airfoil. Airfoil works great. I love it. It's awesome, especially for the price. But this trigger right here is an issue. When you're rolling your hand down, your hand comes off this trigger and it stops. And when you're trying to sand something in completion, you need the machine to keep running. So that's it's the only problem. This is Ingersoll Rand tool, and it's the only problem with this thing is that trigger. I hate those triggers. Hutchins makes one where the trigger is underneath the finger like this, and you don't have any problems with that one. But that one is like 2 times the price of this one. This one's like almost 200, it's 100 and something, and the Hutchins one is 400. So I used to have a Hutchins, but when it finally bit the dust after years and years and years of use and repairs, I went with this one because I just couldn't afford it. So, but one day I would like to get that Hutchins again. So, I'm gonna put another coat on this little edge right here. And I guess we can try and swipe this top section and this lower section down here where we need more. We can try and swipe it and see how that goes, but maybe other people have luck with it. I don't. I've been doing this for 25 years plus, and I find it way easier to recoat the whole panel and then sand that nice and flat. Now you're gonna sand 90% of that off, but it's all gonna be one level because you put one level on there. When you just try and fill in these spots, you're gonna end up sanding more of this down when you're sanding this, and you're gonna end up seeing it. Now, sometimes, you can get away with it. At least I find sometimes you can get away with it. Most of the time I can't. Usually it's good enough that primer can fix it. If you put on enough primer. But if you do that and you have that all over the entire truck, well, then you just got a mess on your hands. I mean, everything still needs to be repaired in the primer. By the time you sand everything out, everything needs to be primed again. So if you get it right in the body filler the first time, then you don't have to do it twice in the primer. Now, I've talked about it in other videos. I usually always prime everything twice. There is so much to this truck. Like, it's a headache. There's so much to this truck. I am really trying really hard to get it right the first time so that we don't have to do everything twice. So, but I'm gonna get some filler mixed up, and we're gonna coat this here. I'm gonna attempt to swipe these low spots, and we'll see what happens. I already know that I need to fill it or coat it again, so if we get lucky, then we get lucky. But if not, it's not hurting anything because I'm already planning on recoating it. So let me get this. Let me get some filler mixed up, and we'll be right back. Okay, we got some lightweight filler mixed up here. Okay, so we got this coated again. You know, I don't, like I said, I don't know. We'll see. You know, we'll see how this sands out. But chances are we're going to be recoating this whole thing just because it works out better in the end. So this part where we're at right now is where I wish that I had glaze. We had it to the point to where it was ready for a coat of glaze, and glaze sands way easier than filler. So these little spots that we put in here, had we hit those with glaze, those would have sanded down faster than this, and we could have maybe saved what we're working with here instead of having to recoat the whole thing. I don't use glaze around here. I would like to start using glaze, but it's super expensive. For a quart of glaze, it costs more than what I pay for a gallon of lightweight filler. So it's an expensive task to try and work with, or I should say an expensive product to try and work with. Maybe one day I'll grow up and get big and be able to do that. But for right now, we do it this way and it works. Like I said, we just, you know, we may have to take that extra step with this. So, I'm gonna go sand down this other side. I don't think I'm gonna film it, because it's the exact same thing that we just filmed on the other side. So what I'm gonna do is we're gonna get this all sanded down over here. And then I will check back in with you guys. So okay, so we got this side sanded out. You know, that's just first coat. Definitely some low spots in there, but it looks good. I'm happy with it. I got a little bit that I'm gonna sand on the back side, and then we're gonna put another coat on that. I'll show you guys that once we get a coat on, just hitting the low spots, and then from there, like I said, we'll jump to the doors and we'll get that stuff coated in Marglass. Okay, so we got another coat on that. I'm sure it's gonna need some more, but we got it coated what needed to be coated. We got that sanded back there. I had a little left on the spreader, so I threw it on the low spot there. That is it. I am out of lightweight filler, hopefully till tomorrow. We got it ordered yesterday and it said delivery Monday, so hopefully we'll be good to go with that. I'm gonna start on this door. I'm gonna clean up a couple of the spots that need to be hit with Marglass, and we'll get those coated, and then I think that's it. We'll work on the other door on Tuesday. So tomorrow's Monday. So let me grab everything and let's get this all cleaned up, and we'll get a coat on it and call it a night. Okay, so what we got here, there was a mirror mount here that we welded up, so we're gonna clean that up. There was also a mirror mount here. It had those big Dumbo mirrors on it. So we're gonna clean this up. We're gonna clean up along this edge because this edge we had cleaned up. We have our weld along the bottom from the new door skin. There was a dent here that we pulled. There was a dent here that we pulled. And then there was a huge dent down here that we pulled. So actually that mirror mount was here. I can see where it was, and this was damaged. So those are the spots that we're gonna hit. Okay, so that's it for today. We got that sanded down. We coated the low spots again. We prepped out all the areas where there was either damage or welds on the door, and we got a first coat of Duraglass on there. I had a little Duraglass left over, so hit a couple of low spots there. That is where something punched into these lines. I told you before that, you know, I don't know if the bed hit back there. I actually think the bed sits down here, but I could be wrong. But something punched back there, causing a bunch of damage at one point. So we got a little coat started there. It was just what I had left over from doing the door. And then we got this side sanded down, and we got some low spots coated. I know that that's going to need more work. It was the last little bit of filler that I had left. So spread a little down there in a low spot. It was just what was left on my spreader. But we are getting there. It is looking good. You know, roof is still just a roughed in coat. We still got a final coat to put on that. Firewall's ready to go. You know, inside's all ready to go. We're ready to paint what needs to be painted. And also bedline what needs to be bedlined. If you haven't been here before, most of the inside's getting a black bed liner put in there, but stuff like the dashboard, inner doors, around the rear window, that's all gonna go the color of the truck. So but yeah, one step closer. Tomorrow's Money Monday, so we won't be on this tomorrow, but we'll jump back on this on Tuesday. Hopefully our filler will be here. We can sand down everything that needs to be sanded down and move on from there. Like I said, this most likely is going to be getting one final tight skim coat pulled over it. Other side's going to need to be coated again. I know that for sure. We can start on that door. We can continue on with this door. This door, once we come in and we sand down this Duraglass, then what we're going to do is we're going to get the whole door cleaned up and ready to coat. And basically the whole door is going to get one skim coat over all of it. The only thing that I will stay away from is the 3 lines on the top and the 3 lines on the bottom. Unless there is a dent in those, I'm not touching those. So, and where the dent is the only spot that'll get fixed. When this truck came in here, like the amount of filler and primer that I removed from those lines, like on the back of the truck, these doors didn't belong to this truck, but that back of that truck, like there was so much product back there, it was cracking all over it, because there was so much product back there. And when I stripped it and cleaned it, like there was nothing there but that one dent. Like there was no reason to coat and fill all of that. Only reason that I can think of that they did that was due to the back of that cab being so bowed in like it was. If you've seen the video before this, it was yesterday when we were doing the doors, we pushed that back of that cab out. And that's the only thing I could think of that they had that much back there, was because they were trying to make it straight when it was curved in. And it's just unnecessary. So we won't be doing anything to the lines unless it absolutely needs it. But the whole framing around, we'll get a coat on that, and we're gonna get a coat in these squares. So along the bottom edge of the door, we'll get a coat. So I don't want to build up too much on the edges because I don't want the edge of the door to get fat. But we are going to get something on there. So this door sits in just a hair bit. I would like to get at least a coat down it. Like I said, I don't want to make the edge of the door thick, but if we can just build it up even a 1/16, it'll be better. I'm not going to build the door out. Like I said, I don't want a fat door edge, but that actually could use, probably an 1/8 inch coat to bring it out to the edge of the truck. But we're not going to do that. Like I said, if I can build it out a 1/16, it'll cut that little gap in half that we have. Then you get, primer and paint on it. It'll be a lot less noticeable than what I'm noticing right now. And I'm noticing a lot right now because we have a bare metal edge up against a filler edge. So you're noticing it. Once you get everything in the same color, it's a lot less noticeable. So that side, we don't have any problems. That side lines up perfectly. We're good to go. So only other thing that we need to kind of build out a little bit and make it line up is the back edge of the door, and it's only in a couple of spots. So but other than that, we'll work on that when we get to the back of the cab. I think that we're gonna work on this front section and the doors over, you know, the next week or so, and hopefully get those ready. And then, you know, once we get that ready, then we'll jump to the back of the cab and we'll get the back of the cab ready. So we still got to throw another coat on that roof as well. But hopefully over the next few weeks, we should be, you know, if not primed, pretty darn close to being primed. So I think Colleen is running out next week, I think, or maybe the week after, out to Chicago to get me some more primer. We're starting to run low on that, so yeah, we're getting close, man. We are getting close. Hope you guys all enjoyed the video. Remember to like, subscribe, share, leave a comment, and I will see you guys in the next one. I'm out.